One to stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Michael Hunter Oakes. He is the guest of Council Member Sherry Weiner.
Well, I want to thank Sherry and the Council for inviting me to share a few words with you this evening. It's an honor. The words will come in the form of a prayer by way of a song, but not a country song. This is a song called Stones that I had the privilege of co-writing with some of the most influential Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian, and Norwegian songwriters and recording artists in their territories. Jewish, Christian, and Muslims coming together. Some of the members of our band, and our band is called My Favorite Enemy, and some of the members, their fathers and their uncles actually fought against each other in the Arab-Israeli wars. But now this generation is coming together to make music together. And we performed all across the Middle East and Europe, and in February we'll be in the United States. I think what happens in Middle Tennessee actually has a correlation with what happens in the Middle East. And with the events unfolding there, it's a very appropriate time to look at the relationships here between Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and how we're treating the Arab community here in Nashville. This is a song called Stones, and the lyrics are written from the perspective of a stone. I used to be stardust, then came the Big Bang. Then I turned to bedrock, mountains, and sand. Chiseled and broken, shaped by a man, turned into weapons in his hands. Too many stones, too many stones, too many stones have been thrown. A piece of a bridge, a brick in the wall. I can be anything at all. The tip of an arrow, the very first wheel. I held the commandments and always will. But too many stones, too many stones, too many stones have been thrown. Oh, so lay me down and build a path and walk on me together. Let me be your common ground and hold on to each other. 'Cause too many stones, too many stones, too many stones have been thrown.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the approval of the minutes of the November 13th meeting? Have a motion and a second. Without objection, they will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchell, did you wish to be recognized?
Yes, ma'am. I've got here a special guest this evening. I've got a member from Troop 42 that meets at the Jewish Community Center. We have Stuart Wilson, who's the troop committee chairman, as well as Jamie Wilson, who is here tonight to get his citizenship and community badge. And I'd like to recognize this future leader, and I'll give him applause, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Perdue, do you have a presentation?
Tonight, I'd like to recognize and welcome Jerry and Joey Hale, the coaches of the Gullersville National Champion Little League team. Now, what we did, we waited a while, but believe me, these kids are beat down. They have, I guess they've got awards from everybody in the state of Tennessee. Tonight, I'd just like to present these proclamations to the coaches. We have some for the children, but they're going to deliver them. Most of them got school tomorrow, so they couldn't make it. And I know y'all been read these things a time or two, yes. But this is a resolution recognizing Manager Jerry Hale, his staff, and the 2012 Gullersville All-Star Little League team. Whereas baseball is America's favorite pastime, and every year with the crack of the bat and the pop of the mitt, baseball season begins anew with the hope of winning a championship. And whereas the 2012 Gullersville All-Star baseball team achieved such an extraordinary level of accomplishment in bringing excellence to both fans and supporters of the city of Gullersville and throughout Tennessee, that we can all be proud of. And time constraints, that's all I'm going to read tonight. So, you guys say you want to say that?
We really appreciate it. You know, everywhere we've been pretty much everywhere, and we get the same story. If you're a baseball fan, you were watching. If you weren't a fan, you were watching. We was at the Turkey Fry with Tracy Lawrence this morning at the Nashville Rescue Mission, and country artist Bucky Covington was there. You know, he's big with the fire department. You know, I'm a fire department employee, and he said, "Let me be blunt. Let me be honest. I'm not a baseball fan, but I was a fan of you guys. You know, I really watched you guys throughout the tournament, and it was just so much fun watching these kids play." And he said it just seemed that it was more than money to them. It was just a lot of heart and pureness is what he said. And that's pretty much it. You know, they just played for the love of it, and we just got to ride along with them and enjoyed the whole ride with all of you guys. So we just really appreciate it, appreciate all the support that we've gotten and all the recognition, and hopefully we can do it again. Thanks. Thank you. We'll just leave these here, and then
you can leave them here.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilmember Stein, do you have a presentation?
Jane, come join us. Members of the council, I'm joined in this resolution by Councilwoman Allen, who is represents our honoree as her district council person. Tonight we honor Jane Alvis, who is no stranger to this body. And no, we haven't lost our mind. We are not honoring her for her professional work. We are honoring her indeed for her volunteer work for the last 4 years as chair of the Metro Arts Commission. And we're going to read the resolution, but I just want to preface it by saying that Jane has presided over the Arts Commission at a really tumultuous time. Clearly they had professional problems at the top several years ago. She helped work through that, and clearly discussions over the last few years with this body have not been without their controversy. And I think all of us would agree during all of that, Jane has treated us with the utmost respect and with a great deal of needed patience. So, Representative.
Whereas Jane Alvin's 4 years distinguished tenure as chair of the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission concluded in September 2012, and whereas through her leadership as chair of the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission from 2008 through 2012, she spearheaded a new strategic mission and direction leading to increased arts participation, arts education opportunities, and a remarkable expansion of the Percent for Art program that is responsible for Nashville's community-wide public art program. And whereas, during her term, Ms. Alvis helped design new grant guidelines and categories, ensuring that more culturally diverse and grassroots arts organizations have access to competitive grants funds. And whereas, she served as a critical member of the Public Arts Committee that oversaw projects such as Ghost Ballet for the East Bank, Machine Works by Ellis Aycock, Citizen by Thomas Sayer, and the award-winning artist-designed Bicycle Rack program. And whereas, prior to joining the Commission as a voting member in 2005, Ms. Alvis helped write and pass State of Tennessee and Metro legislation that enabled the creation of the Percent for Art program. And
whereas she serves as a citizen leader in the arts and serves on a variety of boards and leadership positions, including Actors Bridge Ensemble and chair of Leadership Nashville's Arts and Entertainment Day. And whereas throughout her estimable chairmanship, Jane Alvis has demonstrated the utmost professionalism, ability, and integrity, winning unbridled respect and admiration from her colleagues. And whereas it's fitting and proper that this council recognize Jane for the great service she's given the city of Nashville through her work on the Arts Commission, now be it resolved that this council go on record recognizing her for her outstanding contributions as chair of the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission. Jane, thank you. Thank you. You've got 2 minutes.
Wow, okay. And I wrote things down. Thank you, Councilman Stein, Councilwoman Allen. I really appreciate this, and I'm truly flattered with this honor. I feel funny about it because I feel like my contributions are about that big compared to what all the creative community and the artists do around the city to make our city great. I truly believe that a strong arts community is essential to our success as a city, and I think the government support of that community is essential. So I thank you, and I thank you, Mayor Dean, for supporting the arts over all these years. And I will tell you, it is the best bang for the buck that you will get. If you look around and you see what our grantees and partners do every day, it's truly amazing what they do with not much resources. So keep it up, and keep it up as revenues go up. Thank you. And I want to say something about my fellow commissioners. It's the most dedicated, passionate group of people you can imagine. They work really hard, and we made a very difficult but wise decision a few years ago to take our time to find the right new executive director. And I appreciate Jen Cole, stand up, Jen, more than I can imagine, more than I can tell you. She has just done some phenomenal things for the commission since she's been here and put together a staff. They do more things in a month than I feel like is humanly possible. And there's a bunch of things I could say about them, but there's one thing, one statistic that I think you will all enjoy, Charlie. 4 years ago, we had completed one work of public art. We had 2 commissioned, but they were not yet completed. Today, 4 years later, we have 17 completed in every scale imaginable, from the neighborhood to the monumental scale. And we have 21 more works of art in process. So, good staff. So again, thank you for your support, and go out and see the great art in the city. Thanks.
We are now at elections and confirmations. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Rules Committee recommended for the Transportation and Licensing Commission a first-time appointment, Mr. Patrick McNally, at a vote of 8-4-0 against, and I would move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. McNally, are you with us? Please stand and let me thank you on behalf of the Metro Council. We are now at the resolutions on our consent agenda. Those on the consent agenda are RS 2012-490 through RS 2012-502. I will read those, and you can tell me if there are any that need to be pulled for consideration. 490 approves an amendment to a grant from the State Department of Human Services to Davidson County Juvenile Court to enforce federal and state mandated child support guidelines for children born out of wedlock. 491 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Vanderbilt University to provide information about the Women, Infants, and Children's Program benefits to eligible individuals. 492 approves an amendment to a grant from the State Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health for breast and cervical cancer screenings. 493 approves 2 amendments to a federal grant to the Metro Health Department to enhance access to community-based care for low-income individuals and families with HIV disease. 494 approves an intergovernmental agreement between Metro Police Department and Tennessee State University for use of off-duty police officers. 495 approves a grant from the State Department of Labor and Workforce Development and the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs and deliver services to prepare adult workers for reentry into the labor force. 496 approves a grant from the State Department of Labor and Workforce Development to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs and deliver services to dislocated workers. 497 approves an interlocal agreement between the State Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works for pavement resurfacing Myatt Drive. 498 approves a second amendment to the Safe Routes for Schools project agreement between the State Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works to construct sidewalks along Oakwood Avenue. 499 authorizes the acquisition of 20 additional easements for the Lakewood Laterals and Rehabilitation Project. 500 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the Metro government's personal injury claim against David Gars. 501 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the Metro government's property damage against Donna Pippins. And 502 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claims of Robert and Lynn Robinson against Metro government. Do any of these need to be pulled? Seeing none, I will need committee reports. Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance consider all consent agenda resolutions and approve them all. 12-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Weiner.
Thank you. 2012-491, RS 2012-492, and 493 all passed 7-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Banks.
Personnel, Public Information, Human Relations, Housing Committee approved resolutions 2012, 495, and 496, 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic Committee approved RS 2012-499 by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Bennett.
Public Safety approved 494, 8-4, none against.
Thank you. Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve RS 2012-497, 498, 499, a vote of 8-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll now go back to those not on the consent agenda. And without objection, we can take RS 2012-488 and 489 together. Seeing none. RS 2012-488 approves an Economic and Community Development Incentive Grant to the Industrial Development Board for the benefit of HCA Holdings, Inc. and its affiliates. 489 approves $1 million in Capital Mall Urban Development Action grant repayments for the benefit of HCA Holdings, Inc. and its affiliates. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
That would be you.
Just Budget and Finance. Budget and Finance approved 488, 12-4-0 against, and 489 as substituted, 12-4-0 against. And I'd like to move the substitute on 489.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the substitute.
Mr. Cooper, could you explain the substitute, please?
The substitute adds $50,000 to the UDAG appropriation to be used for job recruitment and job fairs regarding the project for the benefit of the residents within the area of the pocket of poverty. So it would be $1,050,000 total appropriation.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. Any other Councilmember Sykes, do you wish to discuss? Okay, seeing no discussion on the substitute, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes.
All right. I would like to ask that we defer these two resolutions so that they could track with the pilot bill for one meeting. Second.
We have a motion and a second on deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on first reading. Are there any that are going to be pulled? Seeing none, is there a motion for their approval? A second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-241. We're on bills on second reading. Amends the Metro Code to require the annual contract for services between Metro Government and Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce for the Partnership 2020 Economic Development Program to be approved by resolution of the Metro Council. Councilmember Dominy. Okay, we will move this to the Hill. Next is BL 2012-289, amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning Johnstone Court right-of-way. Councilmember Todd.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning Zoning Historic approved 9-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 8-4-0 against.
Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking approved 5-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Todd.
I would move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We will move 294 to the Hill as well. Next is BL 2012-295, amends the Metro Code pertaining to the egg handling and dispersal plan for the keeping of chickens on school property. Councilmember Tigert.
Committee reports, please.
Is it done?
I don't think so. Apparently not.
Does it have an off switch?
You'll have to ask Councilman Garrett. I can't turn that way. His jacket is such, it's blinding me.
Councilmember Bedney, do you have a committee report?
Yes, ma'am. The committee passed it 5-4-0 again. Sorry about it.
Councilmember Weiner.
Health, Hospitals, and Social Services passed it 7-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Tiger.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm just curious, as the health department signed off on this, and, you know, have we violated any Metro ordinances up to this point with this situation on school grounds?
Mr. Cooper, do you wish?
The health department was involved in coming up with the conditions that are applicable to chickens on school property. So the ordinance was written with their input and consultation. As to the violation of any ordinances, the permit, to my knowledge, has not been issued pending this ordinance. So once this ordinance is adopted, it's my understanding that all of the criteria has been satisfied and they can issue the permit.
Okay, so then there can be chickens on the property after we pass this?
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
so,
I mean, yes.
Okay, it's kind of, you know, getting the chicken before the egg, you know, let's violate the law and then fix it afterwards. So that's my only concern about this. We need to, you know, from now on, if we're going to do things and require the public to do things, I think we as council members ought to adhere to the same rules and regulations that we expect the general public to.
Councilmember Duvall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Does this include schools that are exempt from having chickens in specific areas of Davidson County?
No. No, if the district is not included, then this bill would not apply.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You want to speak, Councilman Tiger?
I feel compelled to speak because when I'm called a lawbreaker, I have concerns about a colleague that would say such a thing, especially one that has chosen not to visit the site or to participate. Council members, we have a unique program at Bellevue Middle School that's modeled after the Edible Schoolyard in Berkeley, California. Members of the Planning Commission, the school staff, the principal, administration at Bellevue Middle, the health department have all visited the site and are blown away of the kids and the garden at Bellevue Middle School, which includes such features as a pizza oven, 800 degrees, crops, an after-school garden program, voluntary, where kids, just like on the football team and cheerleading squad, stay after school to participate in an activity. The day that before the chickens came to Bellevue, a permit was applied for. You think it's funny?
Councilman
the day before,
Tiger, would you address the chair, please?
Be happy to, as soon as we cut down the extracurricular comments. The permit was applied for, the money was paid, and there was one specific sentence in the bill that kept the health department from issuing the permit. But it was the understanding of the health department, and they were in favor of this, that we would work together to solve just a point of the residential chicken bill. But to deny those kids, teachers, and community that come over every day and visit this group of chickens, and to see the interaction of these kids that are learning where food has come from and where healthy living, and that you don't go get stuff from the shelves of Kroger, is an incredible process. Over 50 schools in Davidson County have school gardens now. And I want to correct something that John didn't know about, but because of the scrutiny on this and the commitment from community volunteers, the school, the faculty, parents, and students, I don't even need this bill. Because guess what? I'm holding the permit right in my hand for legal chickens. And the health department, schools, administration, no one, including any colleague, asked that those chickens be removed. So I'm disappointed that the raiser of the questions would not come and ask me, or even better still, come over and visit the site to know what was going on. But it's an incredible program. Council Lady Bennett has been out there, Council Lady Wiener has been out there, and we hope to duplicate it in other parts of the city. Thank you.
Councilmember Harmon.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I move previous question.
Have a motion Second. All in favor of previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Previous question passes. All in favor of 295, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-296 designates 14th Avenue North between Jefferson Street and Scoville Street as Curtis Senior Lane. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve unanimously, 8-4, against.
Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance approved 12-4, against, and I'd like to move approval with brief comment.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would just like to thank the patience of the council for the plethora of emails that have been coming in.
You're welcome.
When we're honoring someone that was a member of the media, they are a very vocal group, and I think that it's a very appropriate honor in the name of Mr. Curtis Sr. I'd like to thank Council Lady Erica Gilmore for allowing me to pursue this in her district. She is a co-sponsor of the bill, and she's very much appreciated for helping out on this as well. But thank you all.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-297 authorizes the Industrial Development Board to negotiate and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes for the benefit of the West End Summit Development, LLC, and certain affiliates of HCA Holdings, Inc. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
It would be you.
Budget and Finance approved 12-4, against, and I'd like to move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-298 approves an agreement among the Public Defender's Office, Equal Justice Works, and the Southern Public Defender Training Center for the Public Defender's Corps program. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Bennett.
Public Safety approved, 8-4, none against.
Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance approved 12-4, against, and I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-299 approves the abandonment of two 15-foot easements for property located at 925 and 929 Otter Creek Road. Councilmember Todd.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic approved 9-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works approved, 8-4, against.
Councilmember Todd.
I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
It's like based on the back of an alley.
BL 2012-300 approves the abandonment of easement rights that were previously retained by Council Ordinance BL 73-611 on the property located at 921 South Douglas Avenue. Councilmember Moore.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 9-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 8-4, against.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
I move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll go back to BL 2012-241. Amends the Metro Code to require the annual contract for services between Metro government and the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce for Partnership 2020 Economic Development Program to be approved by resolution of the Metro Council. Councilmember Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Matthews.
At the request of the sponsor, we voted to defer indefinitely, 12-4, against.
Thank you. Councilman Dominy.
I move to defer this indefinitely.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-294 amends the Metro Code to require certain sole source contracts to be approved by a resolution of the Metro Council. Councilmember Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The previous bill, which we've deferred indefinitely, there were some concerns from some of my colleagues that it specifically addressed a single entity, and I appreciate that. My concern ultimately is whether we hold accountable our contracting procedures. We approve resolutions all the time for legal settlements. We approve resolutions for grants that we accept, many of them for far less than $250,000. And so at the advice of Mr. Cooper, I had a substitute bill drafted because I could not move this under the caption of the previous bill 291. And so under the advice of Mr. Cooper, is it?
You need a committee report.
Okay, I'm sorry, the committee report.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance voted to disapprove 4 against, 5 not voting.
Thank you. Councilmember Dominy.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The effort is not specifically to single out an entity. It's to bring a very limited level of accountability to our contracting procedures, specifically for sole source contracts. Mr. Cooper, there is an amendment to this ordinance. Would you please explain what that amendment is and why it was created?
Sure. The amendment clarifies that this bill would apply to sole source contracts whether they're issued through the purchasing agent or not. Specifically those regarding economic development initiatives. The contract for services does not go through the purchasing agent, so it's not technically a part of the procurement code requirements. So this would clarify that it would apply to all sole source contracts over $250,000.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. That amendment, my desire is just not to apply to a specific entity, but to bring accountability to our process. That amendment was brought to clarify the stuff at Mr. Cooper's request, but I ask that you approve the amendment, and I make a motion for that.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. I have folks wishing to speak. Do you wish to speak on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilman?
Thank you. Again, I ask for your approval. This is simply a matter of accountability. It's a limited amount of accountability, and I move approval of this bill.
Councilman Harmon?
And I apologize. I meant to ask this question in the Budget Committee. Is there still going to be a provision if we had to contract for emergency services of some type, if there were some sort of massive emergency here in the city and we needed to bring in folks that might be a sole source, would we still have to approve it because of this? And that would be like 3 meetings, wouldn't it?
I believe there are provisions in the procurement code that allow for an override in the event of an emergency. For example, when we had the flood and we had to get people in immediately, that was invoked through the mayor, and so that would still apply.
So that would still apply even after if this passed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. For behalf of the folks that are new to the council in this term, I'd just like to give an example of one instance in the last term that this bill would have given this body at least a chance to ask some questions about. There was a purchase of a large number of radios that was done, and the contract was written in such a way that only one supplier could respond to the RFP. Now, whether that was the best radio that was available at the time, maybe so, maybe not. Nobody knows. But there were questions raised at the point when it came through the council for approval, and we had no ability to ask any questions as to why the contract was written the way that it was. What Councilman Dominy is trying to do would give us at least the opportunity to ask those questions in a situation like that.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, John, do you have any idea of just how many contracts we're talking about here?
Over the past 3 years, there have been between 5 and 8. 8 sole source contracts over that amount.
Yeah, with that being said, I ask my colleagues, we are the legislative arm of government. We do hold the purse strings. Why do we want to give up our duty? And so I rise in support of this legislation today. I see no problem with us reviewing 5 to 8 contracts. There's no reason. It may be aimed at a certain entity, but they may need oversight. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our job, and I rise tonight in support of this legislation.
Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I wanted to just go back to Councilmember Claiborne's question, because I wanted to ask John quickly about the fact that the contract that he happened to reference with the radios, was that a sole source contract? So would that have ever even come to us?
If an RFP was issued, then it would not be considered sole source. Sole source is only where the purchasing agent determines on the front end that there's not anyone else qualified that would be eligible to bid.
Okay.
But if you put out an RFP and only one happens to bid, then they would be awarded the contract. But
that's
it
not
would
a
be a sole source.
Right, that's not a sole
Right.
source. That's a single source.
Correct.
Right. So what the remedy then for making sure that the specs aren't written would be for us to review every contract and every RFI. Is that correct? Is that the remedy?
Yes.
To become de facto purchasing agents. Okay. I'm going to rise in and vote against this actually tonight. I think that you mentioned that there have been 8 contracts like this. I think that we have a purchasing authority, we have a purchasing agent. We are able to give that responsibility to the purchasing agent. If we have questions, we can always ask. I actually think that this is specifically targeted at one specific contract, because how many sole sources do we have right now? I think in your analysis you said 1.
One has been awarded so far this fiscal year.
Okay. And, okay. Well, I'm going to not support this, and I thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? We'll need a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
23 aye, 14 no, 0 abstentions.
Motion passes. We're now at bills on third reading. First is BL 2012-2.
Did he vote with the prevailing side?
Yes. No, how did you vote?
I voted
no. Okay.
You have to vote with the prevailing side.
No.
Then we've moved on to the next order.
And we've moved on to the next order of business. BL 2012-263 applies a historic landmark overlay to properties located at 1622 Fifth Avenue North and 1612 Fourth Avenue North. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 9-0.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-273 changes .25 acres from RM 20 to ON zoning for property located at 1208 Hawkins Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to defer by rule 9-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Defer by rule, I'll accept it. I move to defer by rule.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
BL 2012-274 changes 14.51 acres from R10 to RS10 zoning for various properties located along Lafayette Court, LaSalle Court, and Lincoln Court. Councilmember Evans.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 9-0.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans.
And I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-275 changes 2.2 acres from MUG to SP zoning for property located at the northeast corner of 16th Avenue North and Clinton Street to permit building, contractor supply, light manufacturing, warehousing, and storage, artisan distillery, microbrewery uses for all uses permitted by the MUGA district. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to defer by rule.
Councilmember Gilmore.
I would like to request a suspension of the rules.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilmember.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think I spoke with each one of my colleagues that had something to come up, was unable to, so I appreciate this. The Greenbrier distilleries, they had community meetings. I'm sorry, a motion to approve.
We have a motion
I need a second.
and a second. Okay,
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so wrapped up here. We had a community meeting that had a lot of support, so we wanted to make sure that we could go ahead and support this distillery, which is Greenbrier Distillery, which will be, I had a brain freeze here, but they're a small entrepreneurial business, and I think they'll be a great asset to our community. So once again, I renew my motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
BL 2012-276 amends 7.58 acres of the Metro Center Auto Facility Specific Plan District for properties located in the 900 block of 5th Avenue North, 6th Avenue North, 410 Clay Street, and 501 Dominican Drive to allow for CS signage standards for all signage within the specific plan district. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 9-0.
Councilmember Langster.
Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-277, changes .64 acres from R15 to SP zoning for property located at 1813 Golf Club Road to permit a building, contractor supply use, and an office use. Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. On behalf of Councilman Jernigan, I'd like to get the Planning and Zoning Committee report, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic approved 9-0.
Councilmember Garrett.
And with all approvals from the Planning Commission, I would move approval, ma'am.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-279 changes .26 acres from SP to RM20A zoning for property located at 24 Lincoln Street. Councilmember Moore.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 9-0.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-280 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the membership of the Historic Zoning Commission. Councilmember Gilmore.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 9-0.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Motion passes. BL 2012-281 amends the Metro Code to transfer the administrative support for the Transportation Licensing Commission to the Department of Public Works. Councilmember Bennett.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-282 amends the Metro Code pertaining to certified payroll record retention and inspection requirements. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All committees in. I would like to move approval as amended.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-285 approves an agreement between the State Department of Transportation and the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation for the lease of property to be used as a greenway trail. Councilmember Moore.
With all committee reports in, I move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-286 approves a renewal of a lease agreement between the U.S. Army and the Board of Parks and Recreations for Lot 2 Park. Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All committees have reported, and I would move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-287 approves a lease agreement between the State Department of Transportation and the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation and approves a sublease agreement with Harpeth Youth Soccer Association. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
All in.
Okay, sure does say approved by the following. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Mitchell.
Hey, John, did you get a chance to ask about the access for the general public there?
Yes, there are no provisions in the lease or sublease that reference public access to a boat ramp or anything. The lease with the state says that the property has to be used for public recreational purposes, which would include that. The sublease with Harpeth Youth Soccer Association specifies that it has to be used only for a soccer complex, youth soccer complex.
Okay, so it can't be locked?
I mean, there's nothing in the lease that addresses it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-288 authorizes the construction and maintenance of wetland migration projects in Bells Bend Park and authorizes the execution and filing of notice of land use restrictions regarding the projects. Councilmember Matthews.
Like to move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-290 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of Music Circle East right-of-way. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at memorializing resolutions. The first one is RS 2012-459, requests the mayor and Metro Nashville Public Schools to replace the entire fleet of school buses powered by diesel combustion engines with hybrid electric school buses. Councilmember Stanley.
Committee report, please.
Councilmember Bedney.
Yes, the committee voted 2 for, 2 against, and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Councilmember Stanley.
There is an amendment in the hands of the clerk. I would just like John to notify the council about what the amendment addresses.
The amendment's in the form of a substitute resolution, and it adds compressed natural gas and liquid natural gas at the request of the gas industry, along with the hybrid technology for the buses.
I appreciate that. I would make a motion that the amended resolution be approved by this council with a couple of comments. I just want to...
Is there a second? A second. Councilman Stanley. We have a motion and a second on the proposed substitute.
I just think it's important to understand that Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County is the 29th largest school district in the nation, in the United States. We have 589 school buses that travel along our public streets throughout Davidson County each day. Over 90% of these school buses are powered by diesel combustion engines. They emit all kinds of gases, noxious gases that are associated with global warming. So it's time that our council, the elected body of this county, stand up to the Board of Education and realize that they have no plan to remove or to eliminate these diesel combustion engines. It's time for us not to set a time frame for them to do it, but to push them forward into developing a plan
where they can work with the Education Committee of the Metro Council, where they can work with the mayor. But I think that something like this is needed. It's essential because they've had an adverse impact on the asthma of the local citizens of the area, whether they be students, teachers, principals, residents in and around these schools, because a large percentage of the schools in Davidson County are located within residential districts. And a lot of times you have these school buses that pull up to these schoolyards and they sit there idling day after day after day after day, emitting these noxious gases. So I would appreciate your support at this time.
We have a motion and a second on the proposed substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. We'll need a machine vote. This is on the substitute. We're not on the bill yet. We're on the substitute. All in favor of the substitute? Aye. All opposed? Substitute passes. Councilmember Stanley.
I would move the substitute.
Move the bill as substituted. Is there a second? We have a second. Councilmember Johnson, did you wish to speak?
Yes, I just had a question with regard to this request from the school board. Have you asked the school board and presented this information to them at the school board meeting?
I will say that the school board has been notified of this resolution, but I have received no communication whatsoever from the school board. And in fact, there was a letter sent to all the other council members, but there was no letter received by me. They did not send a letter to me. If they want to play dirty politics, let them try it. But this is a council that will not deal with that. So I appreciate your support.
Okay, we need a machine vote on the bill as substituted. Councilman Bedney?
Yeah, I apologize, but the letter that the school board sent came through email, and it was forwarded to the whole council.
Thank you. Everyone, please vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machines and tally the vote.
17 aye, 14 no, 3 abstentions.
Motion passes. Next is RS 2012-460, requests the mayor and the Metro Transit Authority to designate as a top priority program for the replacement of the entire fleet of public buses powered by diesel combustion engines with hybrid electric buses. Councilmember Stanley.
Similar to the previous bill, I think there is a substitute ordinance, a substitute resolution.
I need a committee report first. Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking voted 3 for and 3 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Stanley.
I would make a motion to move the substitute resolution.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Councilmember Stanley.
I make a motion to approve the substitute resolution with a couple of comments.
We have a motion for the approval of the bill as substituted and a second. Councilmember Stanley.
I was very appreciative of MTA for sending a couple of officials up to our meeting tonight to discuss this bill with the committee and with all the council members. I was appreciative of that. But I told them, I said that it's important to understand that our MTA, our city bus system, only has 137 buses. Compare that to Memphis, which is a city similar in size. It has 450 buses. We have 137 buses. And what's more, our city covers the entire Davidson County area. It's not simply the 73 square miles of the inner city. It's the entire 523 square miles of Davidson County. I think it's important to understand also that
the MTA also serves Murfreesboro in Rutherford County and Hendersonville in Sumner County. So it goes beyond Davidson County's borders. I think it's appropriate to have these buses replaced as fast as possible. But I understand that MTA, they do have a program in place, and they are replacing these buses, and by 2023, they should have all buses replaced. But I would appreciate a passage of this resolution. It's simply a request that this resolution that these buses be replaced as soon as possible. Thank you.
Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I'm going to support this resolution, even though I didn't support the previous one. And the difference I see here is that MTA has, as you mentioned, has a program in place. They in fact, are going to make, it looks like a fairly large jump in a few years. So it's in line with their budget. I feel like for the schools, that's a lot of money when we can be spending on other things. But I think for MTA, they're headed that direction, and this is encouraging them in something that they should be doing, and they are doing. Thank you.
Councilmember Dominic.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate the effort to improve the emissions of our fleets. I think the natural gas addition to this is appropriate. That is a very efficient way. It actually reduces the emissions of vehicles and also increases the length of time they can operate because it doesn't do as much damage to the vehicle. The challenge I have is the move to electric vehicles. The fact is electric power production through coal and natural gas production is the largest creator of greenhouse gases in the United States. And I don't know if we're moving to electric vehicle, are we actually improving our emissions as a city or just moving them to a different location where the power is generated? That hasn't been answered. And that's the reason I didn't support the previous version. I don't support this one because I don't want to move the emissions from one location to another. The fact is, generating power is the largest creator of greenhouse gases. If we want to reduce them on the planet, we ought to do that consistently, not just move them from the city of Nashville to wherever they happen to be producing the power we use. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no.
No.
We'll need a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
24 ayes, 7 no, 3 abstentions.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Quickly, on the consent agenda was Resolution RS 212-494. During the Finance Committee meeting, I had some comments along with our chair, Councilman Matthews, regarding a step show at Tennessee State University. Unfortunately, some police officers thought we were talking about pay steps and our payroll steps, and they called the press. I just want to inform the police officer we were not talking about payroll steps. We're talking about a step show, and I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye. And thank you for the showing of black and gold tonight.